Hey everyone, how are we doing? It is Office Hours. Mubot is waking up as we speak. I'm gonna do a little bit with Mosaic Plots here to start, but we're taking questions as per usual. There we go with the taking questions. So let me know. Let's talk over Mosaic Plots to start. So 413 Mosaic Plots, BS320 Mosaic Plots, BS320 Mosaic Plots. Let's go take a look at those. Here we go. Okay, so I've made a pretty crazy graphic right here. Well, not too crazy, but the code looks crazy. This is what's called a ggplot. Good to see you here, Blake. This is what's called a ggplot. And if you look at it, I'm using an aesthetic right here, which sets the variables inside of it. I've also added a divider to divide them. But we really just have the fill for it, which is going to be the x variable of interest, which is treating this as a product right here. We're also using a facet grid to connect it via gender. So you can see the two gender right there split apart. And we can do this for any variables we want. But this right here, really excellent display. But in truth, and we were talking about this on 320 Discord, you can do this with the associate function just by going here. So you say, well, why do we do it the other way? Well, it makes maybe a little bit prettier of a plot. Handedness, gender, data equals survey 10. And handedness not found. Handed. There you go. Good to see you here, Amanda. Good to see you here, Meath. And this is what we're talking about. Whoa. Oh, I've got like a setting right now. I need to reset this. I've got like dark mode setting because we were doing some really cool plots over here in 474. We made a function called chart stock. Does our function still work? Do we still have chart stock? So we made our own custom function where someone could enter in the name of a stock. And we want to run the function right here. Oh, here it is. So now we go chart stock, and it literally asks somebody, what is the name of your stock? We run it, and it says enter the stock ticker. And then they run it, and it gives them the stock right there. I was just trying the code. How's it working? Let me know. But this is a function we made right here where it charts the stock for them. We could do it the more advanced way too, but we were doing this in the other class. So we were doing all this. I know, right? Watch this. I'm gonna change the function right here to where we're going to our chart stock function, and let's go if advanced, run this code right here. And then, wait, we don't want to do it there. We want to go right here. So wait, read line, that's where it runs this. Okay, so get symbols, run that. And then chart stock right here. Okay, so if advanced, then run this code, else run this code. Let's say advanced. Where's advanced? There it is. Advanced equals false. Okay. So now when I run this, I enter into stock like GameStop, and it gives me the stock for GameStop. But now I'm going to run it with, let's go right here in true, and now let's run it with GameStop. I could say advanced equals true. Now watch this. You ready? Oh, wait. Object TS not found. Oh, I know why. Because if it is true, then chart series, we need to chart the stock right here. There we go. So wait. And now let's run it again. And let's run it here and run it with GameStop. And watch this. You ready? There you go. Look at that. So now when I say advanced, it makes an advanced graphic. So we can tell it to do it advanced. So you could say advanced equals true or advanced equals false. So telling it advanced equals true and you do Pepsi, it'll grab from the internet the Pepsi stock and give you everything right there on Pepsi. Tons of info, not everything, I guess, because there's always more when it comes to stock. But we just added in part to our function right here. So this is the creation of a really neat custom function. And tell me, Meath, do you think you could write the code right here for chart stock, or just run the function, I should say? Do you think you could run this function where you run it right here and you just enter in the name of the stock, like I guess Microsoft? Is that Microsoft right there? Do you think you could run this right here where you put in the name of the stock and you just run like GME and then it runs this right here for you? You think you could train someone to be like, okay, if you want a stock and you want it to be advanced, just put a T and then enter in the name of the stock again, and it'll give you the advanced version of the stock right here so you can see like a more advanced view of it with a little bit extra graphics. But we wrote all the code right here that runs when somebody runs this. And so this is the code that is running inside of here If it is advanced, it runs this code, else it runs this code right here, and we could make it look a little bit nicer. Chart stock true, exactly. That's all you got to write is just chart stock true, and then you enter in what stock do you want to see. So this is our custom function. There we go. Chart stock true, and then you just enter in the name of the stock you want. Like what is it? Is A a stock? Let's find out if A is, and then it's gonna do it right here. There's stock A. That's all it is. And you don't actually, so it can actually run with no arguments in it, because then it'll run advanced, I think, as false. No, we put advanced true. But pretty neat little function. Oh, no worries. No worries. That's perfectly fine. Great work right there. If you have questions, let me know. But we were looking over this in 474 because we're building functions. And this is kind of one of the neat things right here, is building our own function that basically grabs a stock for us and does all the plotting. So I could actually go look, and I'm trying to think of Pepsi split into Yum, and how is Yum doing? Yum and Yum China. Yep, someone said Pepsi was going down. Shreya said that. I mean, still doing well, but it's had some whoop, whoop, whoop. So Yum and Yum China. So there's Yum. Oh, wait. Whoops, it's going to crash because I don't enter the stock name there. And let's look at Yum and see how Yum is doing. Yeah, Yum's going downward, but still higher than the crash of and Yum China. Ooh, Yum China took a crash right there. It went down, and it's coming back up. Wow, really went down. It went to 70, and now it went down. But a little up and down, up and down, up and down right there. But pretty easy to look at how the stocks are doing. It last closed at $49.95, basically 50. But really nice, really easy to get some information. And yeah, this is what I love about writing code right here, is the associate function is basically the easier way to get, and we've got the graphic a little bit changed right here. I wonder if I could change the theme of it. I don't think themes is going to run on this, but it's got a setting on here. We're going to fix this by resetting R right here. That'll change any of the settings, so it's got like a dark mode setting on my plots, and I don't want it to have that. So I'm just resetting R as we talk, so that way I can reset my plot window settings, because I don't know the exact code off the top of my head to reset the plot window. But with this right here, this won't run right now. Why won't this run? 500 points for each answer on why won't this run. There are 2 reasons this code won't run right here. Can you figure out right now the 2 reasons that code on line 13 won't run? There are 2 reasons that line on code 13 won't run. That line on code on line 13 won't run. Who can figure out for 500 points each, why will this code on line 13 not run? If you have a question from 201-324-74, let us know. We're just kind of talking. We need to load survey 10. Okay, so let's go here. Data. Survey 10 is not loading. That's reason 1. But we have to do something before loading survey 10. That's reason number 1. I can't get survey 10 yet. That's reason 1. You are correct. That is, well, it's reason 2, but that is one of the reasons. So survey 10 won't load, but I can't get survey 10. Why can't I get survey 10? And load the library, exactly. So we need to load the library, which has the survey 10 data. And then once we load reg class, survey 10 is inside of reg class, and now it runs. Great job, Meath, right there. Not data reg class, library reg class, data survey 10. So the data is the survey 10 data, which exists inside of the reg class library. So just practice right there. And great job, Meath. And that's what we do. We just practice right here so we know the terminology. Hey, Sarah, can you go over the suppose your statistics professor test grades a z-score and your score is a 2.11 on the exam? Question on the chapter 5 quiz. That's the quiz, is it? Awesome. Let's check it out. My Pearson? Let's do it. Jump in here at any time with those questions. If you have questions, let us know, because we're about to do a statistics professor. Call in. Happy Tuesday right there. Let's do feelings. Yes. Let's set up the Disney stuff. So, suppose your statistics professor. Suppose I do that? Suppose I report your scores in z-scores? I always want us to write a question. Maybe I'll have Terry add it. I want there to be a test question. Would you like your z-score on the test to be positive or negative? And then we just give you points if you say positive, and we don't give you points if you say negative, because it's like, well, we're just giving you what you ask. Or like, would you like your residual on this test to be positive or negative? And then we just give you points if you say positive residual and take away points if you say negative residual, because it's like, we're just giving you what you ask. If you understand the question, it's like, would you like your score to be higher or lower? I'd like it to be lower. Okay, here you go. We'll take away points. Be an interesting question. Oh, Stat 201. And Colin, so good to see you here. Chapter 5, quiz. Chapter 5, quiz. Part 1. Suppose you're statistics professor. Okay, let's go check this out. I need to get the quiz up and going. How is everyone's Tuesday going? Colin's having a great Tuesday. Sierra, good to see you here. Yeah. Sierra, how are you doing? You last took, was it 474 over the sun? 470, well, I shouldn't, I don't, what was the last class you took with me? It's been a while, right? Like, not too long, but so good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Congratulations on good to just see you, Sierra. I see Sierra in the chat. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. Nice. Yeah, I was about to say. That's so awesome, Sierra. It's so much different. Like, online, I just have the memories of seeing people in the chat and stuff. And it's just so good to see you, Sierra. I hope you're doing well. We have Colin in the chat. Let's throw another 500 points out. People are going to be super happy getting those 500 points for in the chat. We got some crazy scales right now for points. You have to get 500,000 points to get the max extra credit. So I'm throwing out points left and right because I do that anyways. But so good to see you and hope you're doing well. Always love it when former students swing by the chat. We have Colin in the chat. I'm doing well. I graduate in December. Congratulations. That is awesome. Really glad to hear that. It's fun. I post that thing to LinkedIn and I'm seeing like all these pictures of people from previous years. Just so good seeing all them and where they're at. Like, just we have people at Pepsi, at Amazon, at the Titans. Like, I didn't even know that one of my students is currently working for the Titans. So shout outs to my student. I was like, whoa, they're working for the Titans. Like, I'm not a sports fan, but it's pretty cool working for a sports team. Like, that's just a fun, like, we got people working for Disney. I might know a few people, or I might know at least one person who works for Disney. I know another person who worked for Disney. They weren't one of my students. We all learned from the best. Oh, thank you, Helen, right there. But it's all about, just supporting each other. Like, when you graduate, Sierra, swing back by here like Cullen and who's graduated. And I want people to help people who are like, so many people do that. I'm just trying to create, as I get older, I'm trying to create more of a network of my former students who can come and speak to current students about opportunities at their companies. And so just think about, right now, like it'd be great if, a company came and talked to students, and we're going to have that tomorrow night. Oh, I need to announce that to everybody. With Pepsi. Pepsi will be here tomorrow night. And here we go. I just found the questions. So I'll be announcing that, saying out announcements, being like, hey, everybody, Pepsi's going to be here tonight. I think it's 5:30 Knoxville time. I'll be sending announcements about that, and we'll have a stream here, so I need to make the stream, and they'll be inside of Haslam, so I'll probably send out some big announcements and put it all over the Discord. With that, it is now time for a Stat 201 question. Here we go. Okay, suppose your statistics professor decides instead of telling you your score, they tell you got a 1.89 as a Z-score on the exam. Can anyone just interpret what this means? Don't look at their answers. Your Z-score is 1.89. What does that mean? Just don't even look at the answers. If you know it more from memory than reading the answers, try to do this right now without reading the answers. And I haven't even looked. I'm not lying. You are 1.9 generations. Blake, that's worth some 500 points. We're throwing out huge points today. So close, Blake. One little change. Not that you're 1.9. Great job right there. Sarah. Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. Sarah, I saw Sarah. So it's in my head. 1 point, and both of you teaming up right there for the perfect answer right there. You scored 1.89 standard deviations above the mean. So Z-scores can be positive or negative. So when we do this right here, you are 1.89 standard deviations higher than the mean score of the class. So the score was standard deviations. Yeah, not points. Great job right there, Blake. Nice work. Blake, let's throw you some 500 points. We love those corrections right there. You got it. About blank percent of the class scored lower than your friend. Okay, so your friend got a Z-score of -1. Your friend was 1 standard deviation below the mean. So now we're going to use the empirical rule to do this. The grades satisfy the nearly normal. So whenever we use the empirical rule, we need to use the nearly normal rule. So how would this look? Well, let's take a look at how this would look. Okay. So we know nothing about what the average was in the class, but what we do know is The grades are nearly normal. Draw it out like that right there. So you are over here. You're feeling pretty good. So there's very few people who scored above you. It wants to know what percent scored lower than your friend. Lower than. That's very important to the question, lest I make a mistake. Your friend had a z-score of what? Does anyone remember from the question? Your friend had a z-score of what? Your friend had a z-score of what? Let's mark where your friend is at. So we're going to mark where your friend, -1, great job. So your friend's right there. Now, if you want, I don't think it's looking for this answer. You can always go and practice with the David M. Lane. We'll see if it gives us right. I wouldn't enter in the David M. Lane because the David M. Lane is the exact, like, carrying all the decimals. We're going to do the empirical rule approximation right here. So you could redraw this graphic. It's going to load. He's going to load the David M. Lane. Should load it. Open a new tab. Is David M. Lane down for once? This would be a first if David M. Lane is down. Ooh. Site can't be reached. That's a first. Wow. What if David M. Lane went down this semester? David M. Lane. Normal curve. It actually looks to be down for once. Oh. We taught it yesterday and it was fine. Making history today, says Amanda. I like it right there. So there's another site you can go to called Stat Distributions. So Stat Distributions is another one of my favorites. So Stat Distributions right here, you can do the normal curve here. I'm going to drop this in the chat. So Stat Distributions is another site you can use. It doesn't carry as many decimals as the David M. Lane, but we can plot right here and see kind of what the answer should be. Now, if we're using the empirical rule, what do you think the answer is for us? And I'll show you how to find the answer with the empirical rule. Does anyone remember how to use the empirical rule? I'll start to draw it out. So the empirical rule would look the following way. The middle 68% is contained within here. That's 68%. Where outside of it is going to be total 32. So that's 32% total. So what's the orange area worth over here? So what is the orange area worth? And think about this. You kind of have a hint by looking at this. So if you look at what I have on the screen right here and versus this, very similar work. Very, very similar to what's going on. So what do you think is the area over here according to the empirical rule? It's going to be what percent? Because that says 32 if you can't read it. So what do you think? It's similar to this answer. Not that's carrying more decimals. What do you think we should enter in? So I would do it with the empirical rule. But what do you think we should be entering in for this area right here? How would you figure it out? Using the empirical rule, which says 68% is in the middle. You have to memorize that. 68, 95, 16 exactly. And if you look, that's basically 16. I wonder if it would give it to us. Little advanced class right there. I wonder if it would give it to us if we put in, see it says type in integer or decimal rounded to one decimal place as needed. So let's see if it does it for 15.9 and check answer right there. It does like it. Let's try it for 16. Probably will like it. Yeah, it does like it. Wonder what it does if you do 16.1. I would not enter that. It does like it. So there's a lot of leeway on this question. Now it doesn't like it, yeah. So is it right around 16 plus or minus 0.1? Ooh, it's actually, it looks to be centered around 15.9 or so. Well, it allows a range of 15.8 to 16.1. Interesting right there. Interesting what it accepts, 15.8 to 16.1. And we could find out the exact answer to this. We'll look at one more thing right here. If we go to p-norm, I always get these reversed. There it is right there. So that's why it's allowing the lower answers. This is the very much decimal carried out. So I do want to point this out. The empirical rule is just an estimate. So if I'm going to look for a quick estimate of the curve, I use the empirical rule to do the middle 68% is contained within plus or minus 1 standard deviation. If I want to figure out a better estimate, I'll oftentimes use an applet right here that will carry out and figure out the decimals better. But if I want to really know, that's when I switch to code. And so now I can really know the answer right here. And there is the exact answer. It's 15.9, or this is basically, this answer right here is basically what? Like if we don't go crazy, that answer, well, look at the reporting on it. I hate it when R does this. It's like having problems doing math. Computers get weird when you tell it to give millions of decimals. So now this answer here is basically what? This answer that I put on the screen, that answer right there, is basically what? That answer on the screen, that 15.865553 is basically what? And that's why we say it's that. It's like it's a rounded version when we do the empirical rule. We're not carrying all the decimals. We understand that when we say 68, it's not exactly 68. That's just kind of basically. How are we doing on this? Does this make sense, Sarah? I hope I went a little advanced towards the end, but I think I hope I showed to people how to do the answer to this with drawing it on the curve. I would use the empirical rule to solve this. There might be other versions of it that ask you like -2, because it could be any number on the empirical rule. So if we look at another version of this, that's just the empirical rule again, and they are using a solver. Here we go with this one right here. It should accept a range. It does accept 2.5. Okay, good, because 2.5 is what we would get on the empirical rule. So if you look here, it says your friend has a z-score of -2. So if your friend has a z-score of -2, we would go over here and we would mark where our friend is at on -2 as the z-score. So we go and we say our friend landed right here, and in between here and here is what percent of the data? What percent of the data is in between -2 and 2? That's the question. Who can tell me? These are the numbers you should know. 68, something, something, 99.7. What percent of scores on the test would be expected to be between a z-score of -2 and 2? So what percent of scores on the test would be expected to be contained within a z-score of -2 and 95? Yep. So when you do this right here, there's 95. And so we are looking for the area down here. Now the total outside of this is 5%. So the answer would be what? How would you find what this is over here? Because there is symmetry to this as best I tried to draw. How would you find the answer over here? Because you know this and this is 5%. Like we talked about, the areas outside of this is 5%. Exactly, just divide by 2, because the 5% is going to be divided up over here, and the 5% is going to be divided up over here. So the reason they allow 2.5 is that is the solve using the empirical rule, which I would suggest using for this problem. But they also allow 2.3 because if you go to an applet, which is very good, they have both answers in here, you will get the 2.3 answer. Of course, then you could go to code and get the more exact super answer, which is there right there, which is also 2.3%. Does that make sense, Sarah? Like, this is finding out the exact answer. We don't get a visualization on it. This is finding out the exact answer with a visualization, but it's rounded to 3 decimals. And then the empirical rule is using the 68, 95, 99.7. But remember, 95% is not carrying a bunch of decimals. In truth, this right here, if you were to do it exactly, yeah, no worries. Give another question, Sarah. These are really good stuff. The exact is 95.4499. And so if we use the exact numbers right here, so that's like the numbers we don't tell you on the empirical rule. It's 95.449. So now the outside of this, like if we carry the decimals, would be 100 minus 95.4499. There it is. And then we divide that by 2. 2.275. And that should be the same as the code now. There it is. So that's because I know, like, I've been doing this too long, so I know the decimals to it, where it's, I think it's 68.27, 95.4499, 99.73. So, but we just call it 68, 95, 99.7. If you're looking at it, we say 68, 95, 99.7, but it's actually 68.27, 95.27, 95.4499, 99.73. Don't memorize this. You need to know this. So I hope I've made this abundantly clear that you need to know 68, 95, 99.7, but Brian knows the extra decimals of 68.27, 95.444, 95.4499, and 99 point. This one's cool because it's got the 3 on it. Master, good to see you here. As always, we reset those points. Chase, good to see you here too. But what questions do people have? This is just what happens when you teach Stat 201 for 12 semesters or 12 years. 24 semesters, and in summers, I don't know. That's what happens. You'd be like, let me just memorize another number this semester. Let me just put more numbers in my brain and then use those. I know. Well, it hasn't been that long. Good to see you here. I love it. Got people at Evil Tiny Brian tier right there. Let's throw out another 500 points. What question do we have? We're just open for questions right now. Play some of our music right here. It's open questions. Just drop those questions anytime. Sometimes I'll expand upon stuff and go into greater detail, hoping it adds to someone's knowledge if we don't have any questions. But this is your time to say, hey, let's do this question. Let's examine this. We got a bunch of time right now. Let me see. Pepsi will be here tomorrow. And where is the Pepsi stuff? There we go. I see Collins. Okay. Making sure the grader knows how to grade everything. Part B, suppose you're... Oh, we just did that one. So... Reports test grades as Z-scores? We do it again. What function do I use to make sure I don't have a remainder? Oh, yeah, so Amanda, we'll do that here. We can go back. Blake, we can definitely do that. All right, let's see. Function for remainders. So you want to see what the remainder of something is? So let's check it out. 31, 43, BS 474. Functions are checking for remainders. Let's go check that out right here. Awesome. So let's talk about some remainders on functions right here. So how can we find out, like, let me ask you this first off. If you were to take 10 and divide it by 6, what would be the remainder on this? Now, in terms of, it would go into it evenly one time, and then what would be the remainder? So it would go into it, I know there's a decimal remainder, but I want to find out, like, it went into it evenly one time. It'd be the remainder of 4, right? So then how could we, and great job chasing Amanda right there, what could we put between that to just tell us the remainder? What could we put between that to just tell us the remainder? So now we want to write it as a code called modulo. Modulo? Modulo. How do you say this word? Modulo. I think that's what it is. Well, not minus. That actually works. So you are correct. That great answer. I got to count that. Got to get points for that. That is correct. But let's ask, what is the remainder when we divide 20 by 6? Is the remainder 14? So you are correct, Chase, because it went in evenly. Oh, no worries. Which one do you want to know, Blake? Let me know. We could redo that one, but let me know which one, because we just did it. So that's why I was like, well, we could do it again. But it's your call, Blake. You're here. So if that's the one you want us to do, we will do it. So the remainder's not 14. Oh, let's do this. Let's do that. You got it. The remainder. So it's the remainder of 2, but how could I do that? So I could do it a crazy way. Don't do what I'm about to do. So let's call this X. And no, I was about to write a loop that keeps doing it while the remainder is greater than 6, keeps subtracting. You could write that. But what could I put between these to just find the remainder is 2? Is the remainder 2? Yeah, it is 2, right? 18 sounds weird to me. What could we can figure it out that it's 2, but what code could we write? Does anyone know? There's a quick and easy code that gets us the remainder. I might have to tell the answer. The answer, which is all right, don't worry. The answer is this. That just tells us the remainder right there. So we instantaneously find it. So if you took a big number like this right here, there's the remainder right there. So you know what's funny is I can tell that evenly divides into 6 because the remainder was 1, so I just subtracted 1. And so I can tell that very quickly from knowing what the code is telling me. Because when I took and divided that ridiculous number I just wrote by 6, it said it has a remainder of 1, so I subtracted 1, and now 6 evenly goes into it. Does that make sense right there on how I understand what the code is telling me? It says this is the remainder when you divide that by 6, as in there's 1 extra unit that doesn't evenly go into 6, so I subtracted 1, and now I have something that evenly goes into 6. Now let's check this code right here. And what does this tell? What does this tell right here? It's so cool, right? It's a nice and easy code. What does this code tell me right there? And maybe I'll make it easier to understand. So look at the outputs here and think about what this code is telling us. Not that it's even... You're on the right track, Amanda, because maybe that's more what you're doing. Like, does it make sense? I'm kind of showing how to do some things that'll be helpful. Like, if you translate this to what you're doing. Not that it's even, divides evenly. Ah, yes. Maybe there's a number we could use to see if it's even or odd or things like that, right? So this right here tells us in the first one that 6 does not go into... Like, there is a remainder. Like, this says, is the remainder 0 when we divide 11 by 6? So when we divide 11 by 6, is the remainder equal to 0? False. There is a remainder. And you can see that here if you evaluate this, the remainder is 5, so there is a remainder. And then we're checking to see if the remainder is 0, which means there is no remainder. The second one, 6 does evenly go into it, so there is no remainder when we run it, and thus we get true right here because the remainder is equal to 0. Just kind of understand what you're evaluating right here. Everything right here that I've highlighted will evaluate to what, Amanda? So this is the final check right here, and then we're going to do Blake's question. Everything I've highlighted inside of that highlighted region is going to evaluate to what? Just think about what the code is doing. Everything inside of that highlighted region evaluates to what? When I run that code, it evaluates to what? Like, I'm going to hit Control-Enter, and it's going to evaluate that code and tell me the answer to what? Just the highlighted region. Just that. It's good. Great job, Amanda. Perfect answer. So then how does my code read if you substitute what that is? Because that is just 0 right there. So what would be my code on line 26 if you substitute in 0, and then you can be like, oh, that's why it says true. Because if I substitute in what that code... It's... Well, be careful. Not 0 assigned to 0. Correct. I think you got it. Not 0 assigned to 0, but is 0 logically equal to 0? And the answer to that is, yeah, 0 is 0. So, but you're not asking is 0, 0. I mean, you are. You're asking, when I divide 12 by 6, what is the remainder? Then we find out the remainder is 0, and then you're seeing if that remainder you just found is equal to 0. Does that make more sense, Amanda, right there? Really good questions. This is for assignment 3, and I think that should help, because I think I know which ones you're doing right there. Those are some great questions. Let's show you some 500 points. Those are the kind of questions I love going over, and this is what we're talking about with helping with the theory. The percent was missing my code. I knew you had talked about. Yeah, no worries. That's why I jump in and say, like, how do you find remainder? And then we just do some examples with it, learn how to use it. And there we go. We got a question from Blake right here. The first exam had a mean of 80. I like this one. This is from the quiz, right? The quiz. Little chill music. Oh, gosh. I don't know. Anyone else just tired? Gotta wake up. Stat 201, Chapter 5 quiz, Part 1. Chapter 5 quiz. Awesome. Let's go find it. The first exam. First I was afraid, I was petrified. Get in trouble here singing some lyrics. Here we go, we found it. Oh wait, I'm showing answer. Okay, let's go check this out. So tired. I have an exam at 7:2. No, Chase. We got you, man. We got you here. Let's throw out some 500 points for Chase so they can wake up, get excited. Here's a little energy, as BTS once said. The first SATs exam had a mean of 80 and a standard deviation of 2. Wow. What do you think about that standard deviation? What do you think about that standard deviation? A standard deviation of 2. That's pretty interesting. Because a standard deviation of 2 means the distribution is very what? A standard deviation of 2 means the scores are very what? Explain to me, if I tell you the standard deviation on the test was 2, this means almost everybody 99.7% of the data. What does that mean to you? Not low, not so the standard deviation, don't worry, but like, not that the scores are low, but the variation in the scores. The standard deviation is the amount of variation. So it's a measure of spread. Good answers, Blake. We're 3,500 points. Keep those answers coming. The mean will tell us the center of the distribution. So the mean is going to tell us where it's centered at, and the standard deviation is going to tell us the spread. So normally distributed with a mean of 80 and a standard deviation of 2 would look the following way. And so the 2 is the measure of spread, and the 80 is the center. Question 5 on it. Yeah, of course, Kyle. Thank you, Hal, for being here, for asking. Of course, got a lot of time still. Great time to ask. Throw those questions anytime, everyone. So we can see the mean and the standard deviation there. So that's the first exam. The second exam, we'll worry about those students here in a moment. The second exam had a mean of 65 and a standard deviation of 12. So that's much more variation and lower mean. So now the second exam down here is normally distributed with a mean of 65 and a standard deviation of 12. The next class is 11:55, 12:55 your time. Say, Brian, it is 11:55. I say, but Knoxville time, it's not. I mean, College Station time. So we're doing the same thing where we're plotting the mean at the center, the mean being 65. Then we go up 3 standard deviations and go down 3 standard deviations. They should be evenly spaced, but I can't draw. So 77, 89, and look at this. There's a higher potential, at least we see. Not that you can't get above a 101 or can't get above an 86, but this is the middle 99.7% if the scores are normally distributed, where we would expect most of the students to be. So there's a lot more variation. So the mean being here at the center tells us what we would expect, and then the variation right here is a lot bigger. Here it's 12, and here it's just 2. But still, the middle 99.7% of scores would be contained between this interval right here. So a lot of the scores, there's a greater range. There's a greater range because there's a greater standard deviation to the data. So when you look at this right here, we have students right here. Reginald scored an 80 on the first exam. So easy. So if you look at Reginald scoring an 80, Reginald scored the what on the first exam? Reginald, we'll mark them here in orange or red. So Reginald is right there. Reginald scored the what on the first exam? Just very simply. We could get a z-score right here for them. So observation minus mean. Reginald scored the what on the first exam? He scored the mean, right? So what is Reginald's z-score? What is Reginald's z-score? What is Reginald's z-score? So we can actually tell it. You can do the math up there. I've got the math written. But what is Reginald's z-score? Because he scored the mean. It is 0. So you score the mean. Then we have another student right here. So now, and a 83 on the second. Okay, so let's go down here to the second. The z-score formula is, I'm going to write it up here in green. It is z-score is equal to observation, which is what the person scored, minus the mean, that's just their difference, over the standard deviation. So that's the formula I'm solving each time I'm doing this. So when we say he scored an 83 down here, that's the 83 minus the 65 over the 12. So the z-score for Reginald here, and you can see where the 83 is at to get a better idea. It looks to be, oh, is it really right there? That might be a big hint. What is the z-score right here? Yeah, I think that's right. So what is the z-score? I can actually tell visually. The visualization helped me. What is the z-score for Reginald over here? Great job, Chase, also. So what is his z-score over here? I think that's right. Yeah, it is. As far as I can tell. Solve the math right there. 83 minus 63 divided by 12. Solve that math. And the visualization is a huge help. The visualization, if done properly, can be a huge help because we're looking for the z-score. So the z-score I've put along the bottom to tell me how many standard deviations something is above or below. Is it 1.6? Let me double check. I'm getting, is it? Oh, I did the math wrong in my head. 83 minus 65 divided by 12. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting. Maybe yours is different. Everyone's getting 1.666. I'm pretty sure it's 1.5. Pretty sure it's 1.5, but two people got different answer. Can we confirm 1.5? I think it's 1.5, unless I've done something wrong. Let's give some points for people getting different answers. 1.5. Okay, cool. Sometimes I get things wrong. I do it a lot. I don't know what happened. Well, two people got the same answer, so I was a little worried when two people got it. So don't worry. Everyone makes a mistake. I got it the second time. Nice. And now we have a second student right here. Sarah scored an 86 on the first test. Okay. So Sarah, we're going to put Sarah over here in orange. Look at the visualization. How easy is it to see for Sarah? So we've got over here Sarah's z-score. So we could go, technically, the notation should probably be z-score sub Sarah equals 86. That's better notation, z-score sub Sarah. So what is Sarah's z-score right here? Very easy to see looking at the curve with the drawing. Sarah's z-score is what? For the first test. Because she scored an 86 on the first test. Very easy to see if you look at this right here. Like you can see it and you can solve the math. So we observed her getting an 86. The mean is 80 and the standard deviation is 2. So you're just taking the mean of the distribution. You're taking Sarah's observed score of 86. That's what we saw Sarah get. She got an 86. So it's 3, right? And look at how we can see the answer right here because it's at 3, her 86. Hopefully this helps people with the understanding of it because drawing it out is a huge help to these problems. Then we have right here a 59 on the second test. So we say we observe her getting a 59. Look at that. She's only what down here? The 59 is, I think, going to be right here. So actually, can you tell visually what Sarah's z-score is? Visually speaking, as best as I can draw, I'm going to try and make it really apparent right there, the halfway point. Can you tell with a 59 Sarah's z-score on the second test? So that's the z-score of Sarah test 2, technically. Z-score Sarah test 2. So z sub S2. That's probably the right notation on it. Notation.
Notation, brother.
So what is her z-score on the second exam? What is her z-score on the second exam? Hey, Kayla! Good to see you here. We're talking the Kaylas. Had Sierra visit by negative 1.5. She was just a half a standard deviation, negative 0.5. There we go right there. Hope you're doing well, Kayla. Congratulations on everything. You might have saw my announcement, but still, I'm just so proud of. I know you're doing some awesome stuff right there. We just love seeing all the Kaylas here. So the sum of Sarah's standardized score is this. Okay. Select the choice. Oh my gosh. Select the choice, a correct choice below and fill in the blank. The standardized score of Sarah's best test is this, while the standardized score of Reginald's best test is blank. When the test scores are standardized, Sarah did better than Reginald. The sum of Sarah's standardized score is blank, while the sum of Reginald's standardized score is blank. When the test scores are standardized, Sarah did better. Okay, so yeah, we know Sarah did better. So I wouldn't do just the best test because maybe, we want to do the sum of it. So this one really has you find a lot of z-scores for two different distributions. Very complex. Busy. Oh yeah, my hair is getting long. I think I might get a haircut here. Like, I probably need to plan it this week, but it is getting gets in my eyes. That's what bugs me. What is the sum of Reginald's? Reginald's is super easy to find. What is the sum of Reginald's? Who knows the sum of Reginald's? All you're doing, And I'm going to highlight the answer portion right here. So let's highlight the answer in blue right here. What is the sum of Reginald's? Reginald's is super easy to find because you're just adding those two numbers. So what's the sum of Reginald's? You're just adding those two numbers. 1.5. What is the sum of Sarah's? Now hers has a negative involved with it. What is the sum of Sarah's? Be careful with the negative. Don't forget the negative. What is the sum of Sarah's? Should have been Zach and Sarah. 2.5, exactly. So we got 1.5 and 2.5. So the sum of Sarah's scores are 2.5. The sum of Zach's scores are 1.5. Should be correct. Boom, we got a little worried. A lot of work right there. So I actually really love this problem. You know, sometimes I got a vendetta for my Pearson. But when it comes down to it, this problem's really good because it's having you compare two different distributions. Sarah did a little bit below average on the second test, and then she did way better on the first test. And we marked this, but this is like this problem really like understanding this problem right here is probably the deepest understanding you could have on z-scores, finding them, comparing them. Really good understanding if you can work through this problem, solve through it. So try working through this problem. This gets the I need like an approved thing where it just like does that on the screen. Like maybe I'll make that this weekend. What do we have? We had another question, right? We were wondering about, oh yeah, Kyle asked, can we go over question 5 on homework 3? Question 5, homework 3, BS 474. Set over the main screen. That question does not get eliminated. Big W right there. Question 5. So, BAS 474, question 5. So, homework 3, question 5. Homework 3, question 5. Gonna go grab the homework real quick. Drop more questions in the chat. We still got a lot of time right here. Got so much time. Was it? Well, there was a faculty meeting today, but I couldn't make it to that. Then there's a faculty meeting at 3:30. All these faculty meetings. I don't know where they're at. That's the hardest thing about being online. I'm like, wait, where's this meeting at? I gotta find the Zoom link. Gotta find that Zoom link. Where's that Zoom link? I'm not finding it right now, obviously. It's the story of my life these days. Where is the Zoom link? Where is Harvey Dent? Who is Harvey Dent? Wait, where's Harvey Dent? Getting that homework done early. We like that right here. Where is Harvey Dent? Wait, isn't it? No, wait. Yeah, that's what Joker says. This is where's Harvey Dent. Let me go to question 5. I get distracted easily by Dark Knight references. Question 5 looks like a bigger question. Question 5, write a function called leaps. Let's go check this out right here. Here we go. Okay, we got write a function called leaps. So when we write this function right here, I'm going to write part of it or kind of allude to it so we don't get the whole thing done right here. Have a function that returns the x leaps defined as the absolute value of the difference between the elements of x separated by the lag elements. For example, imagine that x is a vector 5.1, 4.9, 4.7, 4.6, 5.0, 5.4, and lag is 1. The function will return the elements 0.2 because that's the difference between these ones right here. Then it will return 0.2 again. So let's think about this right here. And then we should have things added to our function. If we're talking about how this works, theory of 5. Think about this. We have a function called leaps right here. It's not working right now. Wait, is that? Leaps is a different thing, right? Function called leaps? Do I have a function? Where's my leaps function from? It's in the leaps package. So all subsets, I see regression. I am. From exhausted best search. Okay, subsets. No, we don't want that, obviously. So that's a totally different thing from the leaps package right here. So yeah, there it is right there. I've got a function that already exists. So we're going to mask that function. So if I go here and write fun, save into leaps, it's probably going to tell me it's masking that. I'm going to say nothing, and I'm going to say return hello. And now the leaps function has been masked. So when I write leaps, it's the global environment. And if I wanted to do from the leaps package right here, masking means that now I'm using this function when I write leaps instead of the leaps function in the leaps package. So masking is when two things are on top of each other, like you put a mask on top of your face, and then what do people say? Like if your hand is bigger than your face, or you like check that, and then yeah, that's mean. People are mean. Don't be mean to people. Um, so with this right here, we've already got a function written. We're done, right? No. We need our function to do things. We need our function to take things. Do I have to do anything to mask it? It'll do it automatically. Like you could overwrite the mean function, which this is horrible ideas. Don't do this. Horrible ideas of masking. If you went here and you wrote a function and you called it mean and then you return no mean for you. So now if someone were to run, ooh, no function return. Oh, is it not letting me do that? It might not let me overwrite the mean function because it's a base R function. So you might not, let's call this mean2. And you see it actually won't let you overwrite base R functions. See, it says no mean for you. That's what's in the function. But it won't let me overwrite a base R function, it looks like. I've never tried to overwrite base R, or not overwrite, but mask base R. It just is like, nah, dude, that's a base function. You're not gonna, we're not letting you write a function to the global environment that has that, because that's base R. Base R is what you have to begin with. And so I guess base, just I've never tried those things. So here's everything inside of base. So if you look, you can find the mean inside of base R right there. So yeah, cool stuff. So once again, don't try to do that. Probably don't want to mask the things you don't want to mask. So if you think about in theory what this function is supposed to do, this function in theory would take a vector like this, and if we run leaps of, let's call this vector x, if we have leaps of vector x, which it doesn't run, we could input the x right here, function input x, and it just says hello, but we're not going to get it. How do you unmask? Yeah, remove the function in the global environment, might unmask it, reset R. It's okay if you mask stuff. If you have two things masked, like my leaps function is from the global environment, you'd have to go inside of the package that has it, and now you can use the leaps function there. Notice how this leaps function works differently, because this is the leaps function inside the leaps package, where this is the leaps function I have in the global environment. Does that make sense? This : calls within packages, so you could go to reg class and go : and look at the stuff inside of reg class. It's the way to call a library without loading the library. So : is the way to connect a library to bring stuff out from within the library. So this is using the leaps function, which we're not using. Not the leaps function you're looking for. It's not the leaps function you're looking for right here. This is the leaps function you're creating. Yeah, you might remove it from the global environment. That probably fixes it. The RM, great job right there with you're mentioning RM, which is remove. Probably, let me try that on our side right here. Like if we went to RM leaps, and now we go and look at leaps, it's probably going to know to go to the leaps from the leaps package. So that did it right there. Good stuff. Good answers today. We got to throw out more points for that. So I want you to tell me, if you understand what the leaps function is supposed to do, what should this do? In theory, now this isn't going to do anything. Let's rerun our little hello thing. In theory, I wouldn't call it X and Y either. I'm trying not to do too much of this, but I want to know in theory what this should do. In theory, what this should do. Like, what do you think, if you've read over the problem, where it talks about when you take a vector and you're looking at the absolute difference, what should this return? I'm going to pause right here because you should understand in theory what you're trying to do. And this is where I'm probably going to stop working on the function. Because from here, you'll be doing a lot, like your code that you're writing should be a lot different, because I don't want to have everyone have the same code as me, but you don't want to do that kind of stuff. Don't write everything I write. Useless. What should this return? What should this return if it runs properly? And don't worry if you say I don't know, that's a fine answer. But what should that be returning? Kind of. So, well, let's look at this already again right here. So if we have this vector with lag1, so we could call that lag or something. I'm not, because, well, so it gives you a vector, and the vector is going to be like this right here. This vector with lag1 would give us back 0.2, 0.2, 0.1. Might be hard to follow right here. 0.4, 0.4. So think about this. This one gives back 0.2, 0.2, 0.1, 0.4, 0.4. So what should this one return? If we run leaps, like if this function is working, what should it do? What should be the leaps lag1 of this? Close. Close to the right answer. Kyle, you're on the right track. So why is this first element of the leaps vector return 0.2? Yes, Amanda, you see it. Yep. And so why, just so explain this, because now you're seeing what it should be doing and understanding what the function is trying to accomplish and what the return is. Yeah, no, don't worry, Kyle. Good answer right there. Don't worry, that's what it is every time. So it's always basic math. That's why we have why we have R do it for us, so we don't have to worry about math errors. We're just like, oh, just have R do it for us. It's the difference between. So should this be? The difference should always be what? Positive or negative, or it could be either. Whenever we do this, the difference will always be what? We're always looking at the what difference. Life is scary without calculators. Ooh, I like that. Let's make that a quote. Life is scary without calculators. I like that. The difference will always be the what difference. Quote 292. It'll always be the positive difference. So what if I change this right here to leaps 2, which is lag 2 right there? What if I do this as a lag 2 right here? What would be the return on this? What would this return? I don't know is a fine answer. If you don't know, that's a fine answer too. But see if you can decode what it should do if it's doing a lag 2 difference. So it has to go back 2 units and look at the difference. Close. Close. Not 1 and 6. Very close. It's going to ask what is the difference between 2 and 3, and that's all it does. So it's going to ask what is the difference between 2 and 3, and that's all it does. So what should it return? Not 1 and 6. Just 1. And so what if I were to change this vector right here to something like this? And then I did lag 1. What would this be? And let's think about how we can decode what this is, because we're just understanding what the leaps function does. What would this return leaps of x when you run this right here? Got it. So actually, yeah, so you should go, it's going to go, I think you have 1 extra 0. Yeah, should be, so the length of the return is always 1 less than, or the amount of the lag is going to decrease the length of the vector by 1, because this can't be checked on anything previous. So you're going to lose a check right there. But Kyle, great answers. Keep it up. So it's going to be, the difference here is 0. The difference here is 0. The difference here is 2. The difference here is 0. Is that making sense right there? No, Kyle, you're doing great. Is it? You're right there with it. Because then we need to figure out how to do that with code. So now, if we figure out how to do this with code, there's so many ways, and this is where I don't want to do with code, because if you're going to write a function, you get a function to work on 1 test case. Does that make sense? Like, you need to try to write this with code right here, where you have a vector x, and you could just call this lag right here of 1. So if you write right here code that you're going to try to find your answer, one instance where it works exactly, and then all your function is going to do is then going to allow you to assign different things because you get it to work on 1 instance, And if it works on that one instance, then you just toss it into a function. So now you just have to figure out how to do this mathematically. And probably I've got so many different ways. There's like 5 different ways to do this one. So that's why I don't want to do it like one particular way and have everyone do it my one way. I want people to think about how to do this. How would you subtract or go element by element and find it? So use a small test case right here where you know the answer. We'll make it a little bit different. So Kyle, this one's a little bit easier. Just a vector of length 3 right there. What should be the lag 1 of this vector? What should be the lag 1 of this vector? And actually, let's do it this way. I know I just changed it, but I want to make sure people account for the absolute value, so I want it to go up and down. What should be the lag 1 of this new vector? So you should know the answer. Like, if you're going to use a test case, boom, right there. You got, look at Kyle right there, coming back right there, getting the answer. So now what you want to do is you want to write the code that solves for that answer, and you want to have it so that you can just like input, like run an equation right here. So write the code that solves for that answer. And you probably want to use like this input right here, and then you could have someone adjust for that input. So if you can't get it to work for the lag 2 case, then you have to think, okay, well, now let me try to make sure I have it working for a lag 2 case, and then you could get it where someone could input lag right here. What would be the lag 2? So one last check right here, Kyle. If we did lag 2 on this, what should be lag 2 on this? If you know, so just you should know what the answer is for this. What should be the lag 2 test case of that vector right there that I created? What should be the lag 2 test case? Should be 1 exactly, because you're comparing this. Is it making sense right here, Kyle? And then write a test case that then solves, and then all you have to do is put that in a function. And then the remainder of this is the easier parts, like if it's not numeric or is not integer, these are just like if statements. The message, it should return a message, so that's just going to be message right there. If lag is not an integer, i.e. is not divisible by 1, this might be what we were talking about this earlier, so check out earlier in the video where we were talking about BAS 474, checking for remainders. We went over that. Literally pretty much gives it right here. If this is not equal to 1, then your message should say lag needs to be an integer. If lag is too big, is longer than the length of the vector, so I just need to figure out what to put in the variable part. You need to write, what I would do first is I would write how to solve this mathematically. And once you solve it mathematically for one test case, then try putting your test case into a function where someone can define X. Because if you look at how the function is, you just need to put the code in here that allows for someone to define X. And I wouldn't call this Y. You might not even call it X. You might call it like vector or something. I don't want to give exact variable names, but we're just putting in things right here, like thing 1 and thing 2. So someone puts these things in here, and then you use them down here in the function. Does that make sense, Kyle, right there? It's a really good question. Like, this is, if you can code something like this, you can code some basic functions. And this is what we were doing today in class, is we were coding a basic function that allowed us to make a chart. And check this out. This is the goal of functions, is if someone had a chart, we took away our function, let's reload it. So this is a function we made right here, where somebody can choose to chart a stock of their choosing, and you go to chart stock, and you say advanced equals true, and then you enter in your stock, and look what it does for you. There you go. That's all you have to do. It just asks you, what is your stock right there? And let's maybe drop that. I'll drop that on the Discord for people who want right here. I think that loads everything needed. I know, right? So all you do is you just say what stock you want. If you have a stock ticker, I can just enter it in here. So you just say chart stock. You can run as just chart stock. And then, like, what is it? AAP? Is that it? We'll find out. It might say can't find ticker AAP. There it is. So there's that stock right there. And if you go advanced equals true, then you can run it with AAP and advanced equals true. And now it'll give you the advanced version of it. I'm going to drop it over here on the Discord for 474 because I think it's really neat that we can do stuff like this and make it super easy to do. So let's say function to plot stocks. And there it is right there on the Discord. Really neat little function, and just plots your stock for you. So, I mean, pretty easy to do. How often does the stock chart update? It actually grabs the most recent data. So if you look right here, it has up until the most recent time point. It has until yesterday. So it grabs from the most recent close, I believe. So this is all the way back from 2007 to September 19th, yesterday, 2022. You can actually do it for certain dates if you input a date vector into the get symbols function. So the get symbols function right here can take a date range. So you could, yeah, pretty neat, right? And I don't think we can ggplot this. Is my stock saved to the global environment? It's not. Let me try it as a ggplot. Get symbols. Get symbols, PEP. No, we put it as a quote. And then let me try. Okay, I got it. There's PEP. Is it candle? No, you can do candle chart. There we go. Candle chart, PEP. Here's a candle chart of it. Doesn't look like a candle chart. And I don't think it'll ggplot, which is a huge bummer to me. I love it when we can ggplot stuff. And then we'll do another question. So library, we'll change colors. That's interesting. Plotly. Library Plotly, and then ggplotly, because I don't think it's a ggplot. It's going to get mad. Yeah, no, child, I don't even know what that is. But it can't ggplot it, which is a huge bummer. Ggplot is when we can do really cool things. And where is we're doing one last thing over here. We're doing visualizations of a ggplot over here. Can't find GeoMosaic. That's because I have to load the library with it. There's the GeoMosaic. And this is probably ggplotable. Please be. It might say can't do it for ggmosaic. But now if we go to ggplotly and we turn it into a ggplotly, oh, it's mad. Oh, no, look at that. Now we get the interactivity of it. You can actually remove those, which I wouldn't suggest. But you can actually see the frequency. I guess I wish it gave the relative frequency, but we can actually see, no, probably you can make a video on how to create something like that. Yeah. Oh, it's so helpful. Amanda, we do a lot of this in 475. Thank you for asking. Are you in which section are you in of 474? Because I can send you the video link. We did it today in the morning class to start. We talked about functions like that. Just like internally, like the chart stock, you can just run it as chart stock and then just it says like input your stock. As long as you can message me that if you want. Like you don't have to put what section you're in here, but message me if you want. I'll send you the video. So just message me personally. I'll send you the video link to it. That's probably better right there. So do that. Message me purposely. Yeah, I'm gonna remove that just in case. I don't know. Make sure. As long as you're okay with putting that out there. Yeah. But yeah. So let me know, and I'll send that to you personally. But we did it this morning. We'll probably do it in the afternoon. I used a good bit of time, right there. But with this, let's go and take a look right here. So we have. What should we do next? What should we do? Amanda, I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, as long as whatever people want to say, it's your call. So feel free to message me at any time. Because we did it in the morning class. So I can I have the code posted to the Discord right now. And so we already got one thumbs up. Love it. Benton says thumbs up right there. But no, I agree, Amanda. Like, these are the useful skills we want. If no one else has a question, throw out BS4 homework 3. And let's check it out. BAS 474. Homework 3. Question number 4. Let's go check this out. Here we go. Okay, dokie. Let's go take a look at this right here. And we are looking at question number 3. Where is question number 3? Question number 3 says, oh, we're on it. Ooh, look at all these parts. Oh, this is one we're doing with the stocks. Okay, good. We have right here the Apple stock prices. Consider the following algorithm trading strategy. Wait until a stock has closed lower 3 days in a row. So we have its current is here, its current is here, its current is here, its current is here. Buy the stock first thing the next morning. It's bound to eventually swing back up, right? Then sell at the end of the day. If day 5 was this, you would have made this. So you want to sell at the end of the next day. So we have day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. Okay, no. So it's you buy on day 5 and then sell at the end of the day. Okay. So good questions right here. How would we do this? Okay, we've got the Apple stock right here. We need to make sure we have things as date. So I like right here. So we want to use the year date right here, greater than, to only get the days after 2020, 2010. Do a little bit of work right here. So you could go right here and go to subset and subset AAPL and can't find function year. What do I need to do? Help me out, everyone. It can't find function year. The answer is inside of here. I'll give you a section to look at. Why can't it find function year? Why can't it find the function year? That might work. Why can't it find the function year? Thoughts? Haven't loaded Luberdate. Great job, Kyle, right there. There we go. There we go. I think that's done it. So all we did was take a subset where we set the condition in here. So we have right here, subset AAPL, year date is greater than or equal to 2010. Now, what you might want to do is you might want to take this right here. And so the year of the date, we probably want to go to AAPL. Give another hint. So if you look at this right here, first off, right now, this is a what vector. Inside of AAPL, that is a what vector. Inside of AAPL, date is a what vector. So inside of AAPL, date is a what vector. Inside of AAPL, date is a what vector. What kind of vector is it? It's character. Yep, great job, Kyle, right there. It's a character vector. So with it being a character vector right here, the character vector can be changed, but look at its format. What is its format? What is the format of the vector right here? What is the format? Can you tell by looking at this what its format is? And then we're going to change its format right here. So we're going to store into it, and we're going to overwrite it. And I might do that right here. Year, month, day. Yep. So do you know the function to convert it into year, month, day format? So you just wrote year, month, day. So what is the function to convert it into year, month, day? What is the function to convert it? What would be the function to convert it? What would be the function to convert it? What would be the function to convert it? How about year, month, day? I love the functions in Luberdate because they kind of are what they say. And thank you for that. Not sure. That's a great answer right there. But we can take it and convert it. And we're just going to overwrite right there with that. And now when we run it, you can notice right here, it's date format. I know, right? It's just year, month, day. That's all it is. And then the other ones are like year, month, day, hour, minute, second, or month, day, year. You just put in the order of which they occur, and then you've converted it. We should be able to get this plot right here to work now. Let's see if the plot function runs. And there's the plot. But once again, I mentioned how I'm a bigger fan of what we were doing with our chart, because this right here, if we go to our chart stock, we made our own custom function just a moment ago where we can enter in AAPL, and then we can get a much cooler version of it a lot quicker. And that's with our chart stock function that asks us, and we can even go advanced equals true. And then we can do it right here and get the advanced version. And this is kind of what's possible with code right here to get the advanced stocks right here to see what's going on. Really kind of cool stuff and very quick and easy to get. We wrote this function earlier, just doing our testing of writing functions. And look, it's so much easier. You just run this get stock function or chart stock function, and it does it for you. That was our own custom function we created. So when we look at this right here, we have the summary of the data. I think we're good, right? So it wants us to summarize the close, does it? AAPL on the close. And that is not the same. Is it the close we're summarizing? Oh, we need to make the subset. And we didn't summarize the subset. There we go. Didn't store our subset. So with this right here, we've done the start of it. Now, this is where I might let you start doing your own work. With this right here, we can store into here the sub of close into the vector of close to confirm we have the right thing right here. Oh, we didn't run it. What? What is going on? Sub close. Oh. Syntax. So now we have the right stuff. But I want you to look at this, and I want us to think about what we would do right here. We are going to write a function that tells us when we would buy this stock. So we need to know if we are going to buy it, like the day we are going to buy and sell. Does that make sense? So let's look right here. It has to drop 3 times in a row, I believe. So write a function that is going to be called trigger, that is going to buy the stock when we take, and it's going to tell us trues or falses to tell us where we buy the stock. So we need to know where the function, so studying the first, here we go. It needs to go down, down, down 3 times in a row, I believe. So right here, 3 days in a row. And then you'll buy it at the start of the next day, and then you will sell it at that day. So you'll buy it for the close of the previous day, and then you'll sell it for the close of the next day. So let's look right here. Did the stock go up or down right here? Let's write a note. Did the stock go up or down? So from here to here, did the stock go up or down? And this is what we would need to write with code. It went up. So let's put a U for up. Did the stock go up or down on the next one? 27.45. So U or D for the next one. Did it go up or down? This is not code. We're just trying to figure it out mathematically. It went down. And here it went down again. And here it went up. Here it went down. We'll do a new line. So that's down again. That's down again. And then, of course, it goes up again. Okay. And so we're just seeing which way it goes. Here we'll go to... Okay, so there's up. So we can kind of ignore. Because it's up, right? And then here the stock went down. It's just not going down 3 times in a row. Here the stock... Oh, wait. We finally... Oh, my gosh. Check it out. So down, down, down. So we would buy the stock for this, and we would sell the stock for this. So hopefully there's no like trading costs. So does that make sense? Finally, at the end of this, we do hit where it finally went. The thing is, it doesn't matter that it went up. We are going to buy the stock here for apparently this price because that's what it closed at the previous day. So that's going to be the opening. And then we're going to be selling the stock here on the close of the next day. Does that make sense on what would happen here? Because it went down 3 times in a row, down, 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 or went down, 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 we would buy the stock here, and then we would sell the stock here. So this is going to be where we trigger and we say, okay, this is kind of the element we trigger on because it went down, 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 buy the stock. So what you need to be checking is you need to be checking the elements of the stock to see if they're going down each time. I don't want to write out the code to do this because this is the whole genesis of the problem and to see if it works right here. You want to see if your answers are correct because this is the major meat of the problem to where you're trying to get something that checks to see if one element of the vector is lower than another. So if you're trying to see if things are lower in a vector, you want to write a test case. Write your own test case right here and tell me, when would you buy this stock? When would you buy this stock right here on the what element you would trigger? So on the what element you would do that? On the what element you would do it? Buy after, well, you would hopefully sell on 9, but remember, the way it works is we buy on the trigger one, and then we sell on the next day. So what you're thinking here is, we make sure we put the buy on the right spot. So when you're doing this, wait until the stock has closed 3 days in a lower, and on day 4 it closes here. Buy the stock the first thing the next morning. So what you're going to do is, day 5 right there. Try to make sure I do it correctly. So left arrow the close column. So your goal is to write a for loop that replaces the 4th and 5th element of trigger with true. No quotes when the trading strategy is triggered. Replace the 4th, 5th, etc. elements of it with triggered. So you wouldn't trigger on the 3rd element because the 3rd element doesn't have 3 days backwards. So check this out right here. What should, if my function works properly, and you could do it on a test case like this, if my function works properly, what would be the return of the trigger function right here? It's a good way to think about it. So vector input. I'm just going to input a vector. So if I write a trigger function, and here we'll just do return. It's not your return, but now the function runs. What would be the return for this vector right here? What would be the return of this vector? What would be the return of this vector? So what would be the return? Technically, not 5, because we want to know if it triggers, so we should get a what return on it. Running your trigger function should return what and what. I see where you're saying 5. That's where it did trigger. So this is where it triggered, and what should we get? If you look at this right here, what should we be getting when it triggers? What should be the return of this? Should be true, because that's telling it to trigger right there. So, but also the return is going to look like this, because at the earlier parts of it, why do I keep hitting space? At the earlier parts of it, we don't, so this is the return of what you should get, because there is no check on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, because you can't go back 3 days here. You can't go back 3 days on element 2 or 1. So the return on this is there's nothing to return, there's nothing to return, there's nothing to return. Yes, you should buy the stock on that day. Like you should buy it at the start and sell it at the end. So that's going to be the day. So when it triggers, that is telling you on the day you buy that stock in the morning and you sell in the evening. Does that make sense? So you'd buy technically at the previous closing price. So does that make sense to say when it triggers, you're going to say you would be buying the stock at 6 and you'd be selling, let me see here, 1, 7. So you would then so down, down, down. So this is when it triggers. So when it triggers right here, you'd actually be buying the stock here, and then you would be selling it right here. So if it went up in this example, it would have NA. Oh, yes, exactly. If it went up right here, then you would have it went down, down, up. So that wasn't down 3 times in a row. Does that make sense right there? So then this return would be, this is the return of the function when you run it, is NA, 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 false. Great job right there, exactly. So it'd be NA, 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 false. Good stuff right there. Does that make sense? Probably end here in a second because we got like 14 minutes to class. I'm going to grab a snack. But you want to try to write a test case of this and see if you can get this to work. Like, think about this right here. So Kyle, what should this return now? So this is a much harder return. Think about this return of when you run this right here. What should that return? So what should this return if you run it on this? So you have to look and you have to say, I can't evaluate the first, can't evaluate the second, can't evaluate the third. And this went down, down, down. Wait, down, down, down. 1, 2, no. Down, down, up. Okay, down, down, up. Down, down, down. Okay. I think I know the return of it now. Do you know what it'll return? Because then you can check your answer, and then you have to find it Not true there. It'll return the 3 NAs at the start. Can't check this one. Can't go 3 days backwards. Can't check this one. Can't check this one. The first one we can check is this one. So you have to say it went down, down, up. So that's false. Then it goes. So we kind of restart the counter again. This is not a buy day. This is not a buy day. And then it went down again. Then we're going to trigger it there. So false, false, true. Does that make sense right there? So that would be the return if we ran it on that vector, because you have to get 3 downs in a row. Down, down, down. So that's where it triggers right there. Does that make sense? How's it look on that? So that would be the return right there if you ran it on it. So that would be what it tells us to do. You can also see right here in this return, if we look especially at like this true right here, well, these are the elements, so we'd have to look at the vector. Trigger on... Oh, those are the numbers. These are just the numbers right here. So, good. I thought they were elements of a vector. Trigger... Wait. Trigger... Oh, it's because you store into the trigger vector. Yeah, we'd have to look at those elements right there. Those are elements to check. Okay, so in the question, the number of elements in the vector, the number of NAs true is combined. NAs means it does not apply. So NA means we can't run it. You might have to message me on that, but NAs are does not we can't evaluate missingness. There is nothing in that position right there. So there is no evaluation in position 1, 2, or 3. Like in your vector, there are 7 elements. There's seven positions, and elements 1 through 3 are missing. So there's 7 positions. Elements 1 through 3 have nothing in them. So I would probably say there aren't 7 elements right there. I'd probably say there's 4 things in there. The other positions are missing. So if you take a look at X right here, X has missingness in those positions. So those NAs stand for there's nothing in there. It does have length 7, but there are only 4 things in there. False, 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 true is the only things in there. So there are 7 positions. The elements are missing in positions 1, 2, and 3. So there's missingness in those elements. Just depends on how you want to talk about it. Does that make sense, Kyle? Like to say there's missingness in those elements? We'll see. We're going to start class here in a moment. We got 10 minutes. Good job with that. Is the same as length return. Yup. Exactly. Well, until then, we'll be back here with class here in a moment. Bye for now, everyone. Bye.